YouTube, and Belin. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming you to our panel discussion, The Future of Events, Connecting Post-Pandemic, hosted live by the Hive Bangkok and the Hive Live. My name is Anand. I'm the country manager at the Hive Bangkok and will be your moderator today. Before we get started, I would love to share a little bit more about the Hive, especially for those who don't know us. The Hive is a network of flexible workspaces for businesses at every stage across Asia Pacific. To learn more about our memberships or partnerships and our event opportunities, you can reach out to us on Facebook or via email at contact@thehive.co.th. For more online and hopefully more on-site events, head over to the Hive Bangkok Facebook page to be a part of the buzz. For those in the Facebook Live chat, please share your questions during the panel in the comment sections, and we'll make sure to ask them to our guest speakers right away. Again, I would like to emphasize that everybody who has any questions to our panelists, feel free to ask this and we will reply to you promptly. Now, going ladies first, I would like to introduce my panelists here. First one would be Karena Belin. She's the co-founder of WHub, which is Hong Kong's largest startup community. And of course, she is also the co-founder of AngelHub, Hong Kong's first SFC regulated startup investment platform. Please, Karena, please introduce yourself a little bit.
Yes, thank you very much, Anna. A great pleasure to be here on this panel, particularly together with Anna and Max, two very dear friends and great supporters of the startup ecosystem at large. So WHub, as you mentioned, is the largest startup community platform here, headquartered out of Hong Kong. We call ourselves a power connector and ecosystem accelerator because we help startups to grow and scale their business and services by connecting them to the resources they need to do so. And with that, arguably give access to all stakeholders to tap into the innovative power of the ecosystem. We're also behind the SIS, Scale Up Impact Summit, that grew to become the core event of the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival, organized by Invest Hong Kong. And in everything we do, we're very passionate about community, and we're blessed to have a network of over 500 partners around the world, so not only here in Asia, to help us do that and create impact on a global scale. AngelHub is the sister platform, same mission, same passion to help startups scale, but really to make a difference in the fundraising ecosystem. So it's the first and only SFC regulated startup investment platform for companies across the world that are scaling here in Asia. We also have our own fund, so we co-invest alongside on the platform. And we have wonderful companies in our portfolio, such as Animoca Brands or WeLab, these are two unicorns. Pomelo Fashion, originally coming from Thailand, Avant Meats, etc. But yeah, in general, very passionate. A lot of also pro bono activities on helping to the community to flourish. Involved in the startup task force of the Hong Kong government. Commerce and Economic Development Bureau, an ambassador to Asia Berlin. It's an initiative of the Senate in Germany, and then also Thai Hong Kong Vice President. Anyway, very passionate, and yes, very happy to talk about the future of events.
Thank you very much. That sounds amazing. I would like to hear some of your points later on. Next is our Anna Wong. She's co-founder of the FEW community, Asia's largest and premium business platform for female entrepreneurs and executives. Please give our viewers a little bit more in-depth introduction about yourself.
Thank you, Anna. And good to see you all today online. I want to say we used to be one of the tenants in the Hive a few years ago. So we love the Hive. And now we are trying to expand online and transforming to a digital membership platform. So as a member of FEW, you could market your business service and product on our platform. And we have our own currency. Once you pay a membership fee, it's actually convert to our own currency. And with the currency, and you could shop on the platform. And second, we also run our incubator. Quite similar to Karena, just that we also help them with the business model, revenue streams, fundraising. We have really good mentorship program inside the incubator. We have a cash grant this year of $1 million for the incubatees we selected. And now we are setting up a fund to invest in women in tech. And if you have any question about running a business, come to us. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. That sounds also very amazing. Next one is our gentleman, Max Henry. He's founder of Entrepnr and also Global Supply Chain Council. He will be able to guide you through a few things later on. But for now, please make a quick introduction about yourself and what are you about?
Yeah, thank you, Anand. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Just a quick intro on myself. I've been, living and working in Asia for the last 30 years. I'm currently sitting in Shanghai, where I've lived in China for the last 20. And we've been managing communities for the last 15 years. First in supply chain management, like you said, running this organization across Asia. And more recently, the last 5 years, we've been also developing a community around entrepreneurs and digital marketers in China and also across Asia. So I'm happy to share what we do in terms of running events, for now mainly virtual, and also the struggle that we have in running communities. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. This is it. These are our three panel speakers for today. Very excited what we have in store, what you have in store for us and your insights. Let's dive right in with the very first topic. Of course, since we're living in a pandemic / almost post-pandemic kind of situation, adapting to new normals and everything, I would like to ask what your biggest challenge was when hosting virtual events during this pandemic. Actually, we chose that Anna would go first. So I think she was disconnected at that time. Apologies for that.
Yeah.
Awkward
The
moment.
biggest challenges, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
The biggest challenge is definitely what I'm facing right now. It's a technical issue. So, I had little technical problem when accessing to the live streaming just now. So, but basically, to my team, I think very often I hear that they would say people forget to attend the virtual events, even they have done the RSVP. And because sometimes these are on-demand events, right? And people have no sense of urgency about showing up. And so on average, the no-show percentage of virtual events is much higher than in-person events. So I think that is the challenges of getting people to attend the event online on my end, yeah.
Please, thank you very much. Please keep the conversation going, guys. If you have anything to say to that,
very good. Why don't we let Henry talk? We squeeze the man in the middle of the two females.
If you agree or disagree, it's your time.
Okay. If I can step in, I think So just to give you some background, we started organizing virtual summits and conference in a big way very early last year when the pandemic hit China. So I was in Shanghai. We got hit in January 2020. It was, right towards the end, right after Wuhan started. It was Chinese New Year, right? And I spent my Chinese New Year basically kind of rescheduling all our events and transitioning all the events that we had planned for 2020 to become online events. So right from the beginning, I mean, for us, the challenge, I think, which is probably still today our main concern and issues is engagement, getting people to be engaged in those virtual events. And a second one would be monetization. How do you make money? How do you continue selling tickets when there are so many free events out there? And I think people are have been very much spoiled in the last 18 months with the pandemic. I'd be able to access a lot of those online events for free, and sometimes not always willing to pay for tickets. So I think I would say again, monetization and engagement are our two main concerns, and they still remain today our two biggest headache.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fully agree what Anna and Max said. I would like to add maybe also the perspective from being an event organizer, right? And also love to go a little bit back in memory and the memory lane, same as Max did. So SIS was already part of the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival in 2019 when it was at the convention center, when we had over 3,500 people come and attend. And SIS 20, that was supposed to be held in February 14th. I remember we were going to make so many beautiful, relationships between startups and investors, etc., on Valentine's Day. But we basically had to organize SIS 20 3 times. It was planned as a physical event at the convention center. It was postponed to July in the hopes at that time it could still be a physical event at the convention center, but with a different floor plan, etc. And then finally in April made the decision together with Invest Hong Kong to bring it online. And interestingly, the first biggest challenge we had is a total mindset change. A mindset changed in your co-organizers, in your sponsors, in your partners, in attendees, to say, we can bring a physical event online, because it was really, really new at that time. Which then, and that's maybe a learning that is way more relevant even now going on, because now everybody's used to online events, is a real redesign in terms of how a virtual conference needs to add or can add value to the user, right? So typical back to what is the problem we're trying to solve. We're very used on finding the right solution in a physical event with startup booths and with networking areas and lounges and workshops and stages. But what is the problem you're solving through an online conference, and how does the solution really need to look different? So what Max said, right? Like, how do you actually charge when people are so used that content on the internet is for free? What does that mean for your sponsors? I mean, what is the benefit of having your logo on a virtual flag waving right and left? Probably very, very limited. So again, how do you redesign the value creation for your sponsors? How do you cater now to different time zones? Because one of the benefits is, wow, the world is your oyster now. You can reach the entire world with a digital event. But what does that mean in terms of when do the conference need to start? When does it end? When you have people calling in from East Coast, West Coast, Europe, Asia, etc. So I think for us, it was really a mindset change on partners and attendees and everything involved. And second one, redesigning, and not just copy pasting a physical event online, but redesigning the entire user experience online.
Thank you. Very insightful points. I will get back to a few of those in a later stage. However, I would like to deeper dive a little bit on this conversation, what the biggest challenges were. You mentioned a few. However, in these kind of challenges, how did you actually manage to stay connected to all the people, or helped people stay connected? Anybody? Gentlemen first this time, I guess.
Well, I guess we were already pretty much connected. I mean, in my case, we run communities which are pan-Asia. So, we, very early, we started about 3-4 years ago to actually have our own communities outside of Facebook and LinkedIn. We've been using different platforms. More recently, we've been using Mighty Network to run our communities, across Asia. So we were already quite well connected. On top of that, of course, we are running LinkedIn groups. We have WhatsApp groups. We have groups on WeChat. We have many different channels where we can stay connected with our members, in addition of all the emails that we send out. So when that all things started early 2020, we were already pretty much connected with all these different channels. So I think probably more important for us now is, we do so many virtual summit and conference. We do about 20 plus, 25 a year now. The question is now for us is, how do we actually glue all those events together back into our community? So that's another big question that we have also moving forward. Because frankly speaking, I mean, personally, I don't think we're going to go back into the traditional in-person conference format anytime soon. I think virtual summits, virtual conference are here to stay. And I think, the way that we look at the in-person events are going to change. We can talk about this later.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. I fully agree, Max. And I think one of the things I have to say with SIS, the first year when it went really mostly online, partially hybrid, but mostly online, was the fact that all, sponsors, partners, etc., were already signed up to come to a physical event, and then it was just moved over, which then afterwards helped to create track record because people were there. I said there was a little bit of convincing power needed to make sure that they really feel confident that the online event can be potentially even more powerful. And we're going to talk about the benefits in a second, right? Like what actually helped us to make it partially even better than an offline event. But I think on top of having these relationships that have grown over years, or having partners that you work with and have established trust, is the fact that when we have our network, I mentioned over 500 partners around the world, is even when these hybrid or digital events take place, the fact that they rally their own communities for an offline satellite event or even an online community. You come as not an anonymous attendee to a conference where you get lost in 20,000 online people viewing or whatever, but you join with your own community. And we all know, having been at conferences, one of the things that you love most is going there to meet people that you know from the year before, from previous conferences, etc. So I think one of the things that we learned is that the value of our partner network and having our partners involved in the conference as community partner, supporting organization, or even hosting satellite events make such a big difference.
Thank you. Let me move on then to the next point, because you guys actually have mentioned very great points, which I want to touch on about. Actually, Max just mentioned virtual events are here to stay. Same as Karena mentioned that there are some benefits or how you can make it even better than offline events. So I would like to really dive into that narrative and explore what actually are the benefits of such online events and how can we improve on them.
Yeah, so what we're working on right now but we did try already early this year, but with the ongoing pandemic, it's been a little bit difficult for us. We were trying to introduce a hybrid format. So having continue to be a virtual first for most of the events that we organize, but slowly introduce the option for delegates to actually get together in smaller, kind of exclusive gathering, across Asia. So we were again leveraging a partnership that we have with the different co-working space that we have in the region, and offer that option. But what happened, as you know, is that that pandemic was going on, was still going on for the first part of this year, and a lot. There was also a number of regulations, basically forbidding people to get together. We had to deal also with building restrictions in many of those co-working space, also restricting the non-members to actually access those co-working space. So that was very complicated. So the hybrid format did not, take off at all. We were, trying to sell it, trying to offer it to our delegates, but nobody wanted it. So we are hoping that maybe early next year things will get better. I don't think things will happen until the end of this year, but probably by early 2022 we'll be able to have those small gatherings. But again, for us, our strategy is very clear. We've been doing this now for the last 2 years. Is most of our events will be virtual, digital first, and if people want it, again, there will be an option based on the ticket that they get. They will have an option to get together physically into smaller kind of forums across Asia. But again, that would be a complete option. The problem we're facing now, to be frank with you, is that when you give the option to people, and when they know that they have the choice between a virtual, which is super convenient, they can log in at any time, they can watch the recordings, they don't have to waste time commuting or traveling or even waiting for the session that they want to see, and they know that it's virtual or versus the physical part. Most of the people right now will still go for the virtual event because it's so much more convenient for them to access, especially if they just want to get the content and they're not that interested in the networking part.
Thank you. Anybody else on this? Else I will follow up on the question.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see if Anna's mic is working. If you want to jump in. Not sure if you can hear us though.
No, you need to unmute yourself, Anna.
Yeah, you're muted, Anna. Okay, now.
Yes, fantastic.
Microphone is not working, Anna.
Microphone's not working. Okay.
Maybe while Anna refreshes the page, I mean, I'm happy to build on what Max said, and yeah, I mean, at first, just to clearly and bluntly answer your question in terms of some of the benefits. There's clearly a huge cost benefit. So again, staffing a convention center that's basically empty and pulling everything up costs a lot of money, and that obviously with online events is significantly reduced. The reach, so I mentioned SIS 19 had 3,500 people join. SIS 20 went close to 30,000, and then on SIS 21 over 50,000 viewers. So that's definitely, and obviously with a global reach, and you are not dependent of people being able to travel into Hong Kong and come, which also holds then true for the speakers. So some of the speakers we would not have been able to host because they would not have been able to travel, or also if they are able to travel, would just be too expensive to fly into Hong Kong, because some of these speakers have very specific travel requirements when they come. The interesting thing is with also then the fourth benefit was when it comes to reach, streaming into satellite locations. So for example, SIS 21, we had a very big part, obviously because it was very hype on NFTs and arts and tech. So we had Beeple and Tubadur, Metacom's co-founder, and Colin, etc. We were able to stream the convention center where Christie's was hosting their spring sales. And again, if before you would approach partners or corporates and say, look, you have the opportunity to stream part of a conference into your own event, people say like, no, why would I do that? It's not the same as being there live. Now, if that's not an option, again, it opens up doors. And I think it really makes certain mind barriers fall in terms of what's actually possible. I think in terms of what Henry said, interestingly, you said you have potentially people prefer coming online versus offline. I would argue it really depends why you join the conference. I think for content, I totally agree. For me, even the same thing, right? I could listen to a great talk and at the same time, maybe work something separately, multitask. Definitely would prefer online. For some of the areas like business matchmaking, our investor lounge, when it comes to investing and meeting startups, particularly at earlier stage for investment, that is very difficult to replicate online. So again, we had some tips and tricks and tools that we put in place, but honestly, to compare what would have happened in an offline investor lounge, etc., totally not comparable. Same thing for the hackathon that we ran. So part of what we do is corporate innovation. So we ran Hack Asia last year. And part of that Hack Asia, part of the problem statements of the 10 were executed by local student teams with the company, with the business units of Jardins here locally. And that really added to the overall experience and the employee engagement. So I'm not sure if the people online had, as much fun joining the hackathon. The winner was an online competitor, person competing online. But I would say, some of these elements, they just work better offline.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, do we have Anna back? Does she have anything to say on this? I mean, I think she does because she was speaking earlier.
So
we actually hear you. Okay, awesome.
I know, this is why I say the largest challenges is the technical issue.
Right.
So yeah, I am trying to follow up the conversation. And basically, from my perspective, when it comes to online event, I would say really depends on the business nature or the product value you are offering, right? And also the objective and agenda of doing that online event. Because we have been advising members to what to do in terms of the marketing or strategy. Let's say if your agenda is to sell a product at a really affordable price, and that fits for a broader audience. And online event might work for you guys. But if your product value is really high, like an expensive pieces or diamond, and that might not really able to get the result you want. And also we found out that for B2B business, and sometimes it really involves in-depth communication and relationship building with the client. And you need to introduce your product, and that is really quite sophisticated. Let's say a property investment project. And so the online tools might not be useful for what you want to get. And this is why, to me, I always think events, no matter online, offline, it's just a tool. But is that tool able to help you to get what you want? And it really depends on, the outcome you want to achieve. If you simply just want to get, a broader audience, and that might work because when we expand to Southeast Asia market, we do a lot of online master classes, and it actually helped us to get a huge follower in Southeast Asia market rapidly. But the result is not, I would say the quality is not as good as what we expect, but it's really cost-effective way to get um, compared to doing a lot of offline events. So back to back to the point is actually depending on the goal you want to achieve and also the business nature or the product value you are delivering to the audience.
I have a follow-up question on this. Thank you much, Anna, by the way. So we have discussed the challenges, we have discussed or we have touched on the benefits. But what is interesting for me, and also I think for the viewers, is also how do you weigh between them? Like, for example, Max mentioned like engagement is a problem, right? Karena, on the other hand, says, for example, the cost drops down significantly. How do you choose what is when appropriate? If you understand my question, when do you apply the benefits and actually are taking the not so good things about that in consideration? Like, how do you make that work? What's the magic?
Yeah, so let me clarify what I was saying by engagement. So just to be clear, based on our experience, we've done probably about 40 virtual summit and conference in the last 2 years already. The engagement is there. We actually, one of the biggest, I would say, feedback we're getting from speakers is actually the speakers actually getting a lot more questions online versus the in-person format. Typically at our sessions, when we bring a speaker, and by the way, the speaker love the virtual format, especially if they are very C-level type of executive. For them, they don't want to waste time commuting and spending half a day in a conference just to speak for 20 minutes. They would rather do it online. It's very time effective. They don't have to travel. It's so most of us speakers actually love the format. Also, on top of that, they love it because they get a lot more questions and feedback on their own sessions. Typically, at our, when speakers speak for about 20 to 30 minutes, our sessions, they'll probably get between 15 to 20 questions in their session minimum. That's something that they will never get into in a normal conference. They will be lucky if they get 3 or 5 questions, speaking at a normal conference. In terms of engagement, when I'm talking about engagement is basically the fact that we don't get the networking going on. So people, at each of the events that we organize now, we have a social lounge, we have a virtual lounge, and Karena knows that because there's one platform called Remo, which is based in Hong Kong, which is operating there. But we also use other platforms like AirMeet. So we are able to actually recreate the lobby and the virtual lounge when people can sit at the different tables and have conversation one-on-one or as a group, and this is still lacking. So we're still struggling to bring people to those tables, to switch on their microphone and their webcam and start really interacting with each other. We get some, but we don't get as much as we will get it into a normal conference. So this is the engagement that we're lacking at a virtual event. But I think the platforms are getting better and better. The features are really improving. The platform that you're looking at, I mean, StreamYard is one of them. You're using StreamYard today. Is probably not the best platform for engagement, but we know if you're looking at platform like Airmeet or Remo or the Hopin or the others, they're getting very, very sophisticated now. And I think the engagement is slowly improving.
Yeah, I agree. I want to maybe just dive a little bit deeper, because it comes back to what I was mentioning at the beginning on just, again, restarting from scratch, from a blank piece of paper. So I love the example on the networking lounge, right? So you cannot just bring a networking lounge online, right? And I think also, having been to a lot of different platforms and platforms provider, I mean, we have tested 100 over the past 2 years to understand which are the ones that really drive the best solution for the value we want to create. But the point of networking lounges, or the digital kind of like entrance hall when you arrive, and making sure that you have the skyline of Hong Kong in the back, doesn't matter, right? And at one point in time, even in Entrepnr, you're a little bit sick and tired of having the same avatar, like the 10 different avatars behind the booth that you're kind of like engaging with. And it's very interesting on the example for speakers and the audience. I fully agree that for speakers, it's so much easier. There's a lot of more engagement by being able to ask direct questions and see the questions also. But on the audience side, again, it's just being very conscious about what was one of the added benefits for people to join the talk. Some of them is just you want to be very close to Elon Musk or Peter Thiel or whoever, and potentially get a selfie and turn around. So all of these things, obviously, you cannot mimic. So what then, in contrary, is the value proposition that you give to the audience, right? To make sure that you have this level of engagement, that you make sure that people are really going to call in, right? It's not just getting put into my calendar and not going to call in. Or I know that the video anyway is available on demand afterwards, so I'll just not be on the platform at that given point in time. And it's interesting. So one of the things that we do during SIS is also a global startup competition. In 2019, we ran actually in 2019 and beginning 20, we were lucky that we were still be able to go into 12 different countries physically. And just to give another example of how you have to redesign the user experience and understand, what really matters, is these were per country, Paris, London, Berlin, and obviously 10 different countries here in Asia, Israel. It was events where the pitches were sector agnostic. So it wasn't for a specific stage, but companies from all different industries could pitch. When we brought the entire global startup competition online, then in beginning of 2020, we decided we actually differently now make sure that instead of having country-specific semifinals, we had vertical-specific semifinals, because it would make way more sense for people to have that engagement. I would call in just for a fintech B2B pitching competition, because I might not at all be interested in health tech. And secondly, even then for the user experience of being able to compare pitches really side by side, it made so much more sense. So even for us going back to the drawing board and say, wait a second, okay, now again, not the geographical issue. So it's not a problem on bringing fintech B2B from around the world together into one place. That is the kind of like, how you have to have the courage to re-question what's the problem I'm solving, what am I doing, and how do I need to totally redesign the way I deliver that.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Again, if I may, I can have a follow-up question on that, especially to you, Karena. Everybody else who wants to pick up on that as well would be great. You mentioned a lot about mindset change, right? So there is, I think, also a strategy shift by doing events. Well, before in the day, if I remember of networking events where you go to a hotel, you pay your cover charge, and then you have your nice dinner or your drinks. and they can turn out to be quite profitable, right? So you do have revenue from that as well. Now, is your event or the events you do have serve a different purpose? Instead of generating, or like Henry says, a monetization on that, do you have a different purpose? Is it more like assuming a PR role, a marketing role instead, or is it still possible to actually generate revenue from those and actually make it as a business, basically? So what's your thought on this?
Yeah, so actually for us concretely, I said we were really able to reduce costs significantly, and B, we were also able to increase actually sponsorship revenues. So our overall profit margin really significantly increased on the event. But the reason also is because we redesigned the sponsorship value, and again, versus previously telling sponsors you have your logo on a virtual backdrop and you get the opportunity to host a panel, etc. We shifted that on showing customers that and our corporate sponsors that now being digital and having the engagement already and the access is something that we can leverage not only on the conference itself, but even throughout the year. So a lot of these sponsorship contracts actually evolved in the type of KPI. So it was less awareness and visibility. That's always obviously a part, but it was really customer development, outreach, constant scouting, and constant engagement. And that even now on a cycle where these programs could run scattered out into webinar pre-events or even post-event webinars follow-up or even emails that are sent out. Because now these attendees, yes, they knew that they attended an event and they are kind of like prepared to receive email communication afterwards again from some of these sponsors, maybe with extra deals or extra workshops or extra opportunities. So again, it doesn't happen automatically, but if you step back and say that, wow, great, now there is a conference where I do not have to scan the 3,500 business cards before I can actually do the outreach. I already have them all digitally signed up, and now I can blast and I can create, new packages with new value creation also for the sponsors. Really, really helped for sure.
Yeah, and then what your question was more related to whether we can make money in organizing those, smaller kind of networking events at a co-working space, for example. Was it your question?
Or does it serve a different purpose now? Like
Okay.
previous events were offline events on a network, on his business events were also a purpose to make money.
Yeah.
So I want to know two things you picked up correctly. One, how do you generate money now? And two, if it applies another service.
Okay. We never really make money on those networking events in the past. Back in the time where those in-person events were possible, networking events were just made for our community. Right. They were fun. Our members love it. We were not charging too much anyway, and so this was not really a big revenue generator for us. I think the way we look at events now, for us, learning from the pandemic and what we've done in the last 18 months, for us now, the bigger the better. The sponsors demand it. They want reach, they want scale, they want numbers, they want list. A lot of those big sponsors, you have to remember, I've been unable to spend money on in-person events for the last 2 years. So they're looking for new avenue to spend their budget. And when it comes to lead generation, those virtual events are perfect for them. Because they can get list of the delegates. They can suddenly, go from having, 200 people list to having 1,000 or 2,000 people list. So that's a big plus for them. But for us, like I said, monetization is still an issue on the audience side. I think the sponsors are willing to pay. The budget are there now. I think they're much more warm up to the idea of sponsoring virtual events than they used to be before. So the training has been done. I think they start to really like it and put the budget into it. But really for us, the issue is how do we charge the audience? When there are so many free webinars out there, when there's so many free meetups that we can access to. There's a lot of free content that you can get on YouTube and many other different channels, right? So how do you justify charging $100 or even $50 to them, to attend a virtual summit or a conference where they can get probably quite a bit of a sessions of content for free directly from YouTube. So that's the issue, and I think that will continue to be a problem for us.
Thank you, Anna.
Mm.
I would love to hear something from you if the mic is working now.
Yes. It's quite interesting to hear, the business model of Maxine and Karena, and also their, perspective on event. For FEW, I wouldn't say we make revenue from event, or event is one of the products that we are selling to members. So basically, we don't consider event as a product. So we are not really like other maybe community that they are doing a lot of sponsorship. So we don't really do much sponsorship this day. So our revenue stream usually come from individual membership, company membership, consulting work, and transaction fees. So consulting work is actually one of the largest revenues so far in my company, because we offer pretty standard service to the member in general, but in our database we have around like 50,000 registered member. Let's say, out of that 50,000. From time to time, we receive leaks about sales leaks about how to market the product to certain demographics. So this is where we comes in to help them with the strategy planning. And second is because we have built a strong database of women in the region, and we become a partner for many companies who want to get into that demographic. And usually those partners are sizable company. They are not small entrepreneurs, like from tech company, luxury brands, mobility companies, funds. So we don't really do single event for those companies. We actually help them to operate certain project, help them to achieve their goal. And I can't disclose too much detail because we are we are being an operator for those companies behind the scene. So this is the major revenue we are from FEW. So I would say event to what we are doing is more for branding purpose, because through event we manage to engage the leaders, stakeholder that we want to reach out, and to FEW we consider that is an inspirational, marketing or networking tool. But at the end of the day, we have to, generate revenue from other core products. I might not be able to tell you much about what other products, but event is not a product that we are selling. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Karena. Do you think you can run profitable events without sponsorship today?
Yes, I was going to say a clarification is, so networking events are different from what I was referring to. I was referring to, a large scale conference. Yes, absolutely.
Just on
I
tickets?
think,
Can you be profitable just on selling tickets to the audience?
No, not tickets. So again,
Okay,
that's
all right.
actually a very good clarification in terms of where also the monetization shifts. So yes, beforehand you ask people to join, right, and pay, therefore coming physically to the convention center, etc. We do have specific different tiers for some of the tickets, because they would again then give you more than just the right to attend or the rights to consume content. Because fully agree with you, consumption of content on the internet, I think, even large networking, broadcasting, TV channels, etc., struggle on making that happen, right, and newspapers. But yes, it is really in terms of redefining what is the value that you create, and then again also for our sponsors. And you said it yourself, but that it's really lead generation. It's curated and quality outreach and engagement with the people that they're able to touch. And also the fact, and that's something that very often speaks to corporates, is the fact that you can track it. Because before I was unable really to exactly tell them, I could tell them, great, we have 3,500 people come across the doorsteps, but I'm not sure how many people really listen to your talk. Now I have 100% engagement. As you said, Max, they see the questions they get. So in terms of analytics, right, and even how some of these and afterwards, the retargeting, how all that works, so much more powerful. And sometimes, that's how the corporates work as well. They need to justify an ROI. So if you're able to be able to measure, it's a big part of the sell is actually much easier.
Yeah, and just to close on this, and then I think just go back to your initial point. I think again, if we consider one day to go back offline and do those in-person events inside co-working space, for example, the question is whether we can make money on those. And for me, I will consider those in-person, smaller events maybe more as an add-on to existing virtual events, right? So moving forward. So this is what we envision to have for next year, for example. Yeah.
Great. By the way, we have a couple questions flying in here. I will take the one that's relevant to this question first, and then I'll go to the other ones, if I may, with your permission. So I'm putting it up on screen. We have here, I can imagine people would feel somewhat defeated when not profiting as much through online events or not seeing the success physically for example, actual attendees. What is your advice for empowering your teams?
Our teams, our own event team, or
anything. I think this seems very broad. I think it pertains to the event teams. Yes.
Karena, you want to start? Are you muted? Okay, hold on.
He's talking to somebody else.
So in my case, my team is happy with the result that we're getting. We can see clearly the sign up, the engagement, the feedback we're getting from speakers. So I think so that's not an issue. I think so our team is quite pleased with the result that we're getting of the online events.
Yeah, actually, for the team engagement, just quickly, because I'm really worried that my computer is shutting down because of no more battery, which again, the challenge with tech conferences is the tech, right? You need to make sure that the computers work. Actually, because we always have a war room, and the online events, it creates so much more team cohesion and excitement for the team because they're all together in one big, war room, managing all the different streams and things. Because again, if you think about the convention center where you scattered out over thousands of square feet, where some team members don't even cross each other during the day, very, very different. And I mean, it's exciting because again, as an organizer, you have the analytics, you have the stats, you see the startups calling in from South America or whatsoever. You're like, oh gosh, I didn't really realize that this was possible and that we had such a reach. So that arguably is in a lot of elements easier, and you create some of these offline elements again. So there's always kind of like a closing party with some speakers that are locally there with the team. So you create some of that excitement from the offline gathering for sure on top.
Yeah, and don't take us wrong. Again, an online event is not easier to organize than an in-person event. I will say that actually it requires probably a lot more work than a traditional conference in terms of preparation, making sure that the platform is ready, the speakers are ready to go. I mean, we saw, the kind of problem we have with Anna today. So make sure that all the speakers can speak, the microphone works, the webcam is working. So, the preparation is tremendous. It requires a lot of work and a lot of teamwork. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you kindly. That's for the revenue part and the monetization. We want to dive back. Here's the question from Olivia Ha. She was asking about the customer engagement that we touched on earlier, Max. Let me just put it up on screen. What is the best way to integrate an online event model into a business model that traditionally hosts little to no events, but needs to boost customer engagement?
cool. Maybe I could answer that question. So I always ask our team, what's the value of we could deliver to the members or customer. I think at the end of the day, it always comes back to the solution or value that's your customer looking for. So I wouldn't say event would be the answer to help your customer, but like it's actually really looking to what your customer looking for, and event is a tool. Maybe actually they're looking for what is inside the event, maybe the people's contact, the networking, or marketing, market the product in the event. Instead of doing online event, you could having the product on a website marketplace, and that could be one of the solutions. So I'm trying to say, try to look into what the customer want in the event. That could be about marketing the business, the product, the service. Are you able to help them to drive something through an online event? And that could be where your revenue comes from.
Thank you. Great one. Thank you for taking this question. I do have one other question, and then we can dive back into our program, unless somebody else has. I would like to encourage everybody to ask some questions here in the chat, as these three people have done. This one is from Devika Dua. As we take a digital adoption globally, along with the impacts of the pandemic, networking has shifted online. Do you think that this trend will continue? As online, there is a more vast network and meaningful connections to be made outside of your location. Will we find value again in in-person connections post-pandemic?
Yeah, actually, the thing is with big, and I'm talking about big, large-scale conferences such as SIS, the real benefits, even when it is in person, is the fact that you break that huge community down into smaller communities, smaller ways of engagement. Nobody can engage with 20,000 people, right? I mean, there have tons of statistics out there. It's like whenever you go even beyond 100, it's going to start becoming really, really difficult. And I think one of the things to really, really, again, come back and say, how do online conferences need to be designed differently versus offline conferences? One is the point about networking, truly, right? So it's again, how do you create smaller clusters where you can clearly communicate a value proposition to the people and stay there and curate and kind of like animate the connectivity and the connection. Super, super important. Another one, I just want to build that on because it was a thought I had earlier on and I forgot to mention that previously, a little bit the name of the game of big tech conference was FOMO, right? So we had, when it was offline, 12 different tracks, and you want to make sure that when people left the conference, they said like, shit, next year I have to come again because I only saw half of the conference. And like, if you do that online, people are just going to turn off and just switch off. If you have too many things going on, too much choice, kills it totally in an online conference. At least that's what we understood and saw. And so hence we refocus into very specific tracks where you can then, pick and choose, again, depending on the very clear value proposition. But yeah, so the networking size doesn't matter. It's really the quality and the way that you curate the interaction that really matters.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with Karena. I think one thing that the pandemic has taught us is that events have to change, and I think the bigger events will probably evolve into like we say, becoming more virtual, more online, with smaller, more exclusive gatherings across different countries. Of course, there'll always be people which prefer the handshake and the tapping shoulders, and the type of people who like to hang out with the people they know already, and they like to spend some time, a few hours, just chit chat and pretending to be listening, but actually they're more interested in the networking. But also there are people who don't like that, and there are a lot of introvert people. There are a lot of people who don't like to go to those in-person gathering. They feel shy. They feel there's just too many people. They feel they're wasting their time because they always bump into the same face and the same people. And those people also, there are people out there which are also very interested to actually meet up online, people that they will never ever dream about meeting them physically. So a lot of the meetups and virtual events that we do now, we bring people which are in Indonesia, people talking to Korean, and for the first time, cross-border, they're able to actually meet each other. And I think this is the unique thing about having online events, that you can meet people that you will never meet physically ever in your life. So I think that's really, really cool for a lot of people. So I think events will continue to evolve in the future, yeah. But nobody really knows what they will be because nobody knows what the pandemic is going to be next year again.
All right, thank you. We do have 5 minutes left, so let me take one more question from the audience, and then let's see how much time we have left. It's again from Ashley Mock. Do you have any advice for online event marketing? We typically do physical posters, boost post, Facebook and LinkedIn shared, etc. Is there more to do? What are you doing to promote? What are you doing to promote your events effectively? Maybe some insight.
A lot of things that Ashley is talking about. So I mean, we do B2B events. So for us, LinkedIn is our main platform. We utilize LinkedIn event page, something that not many event organizers are using it. I strongly recommend that you look into it. It can be very powerful if you know how to use it. We do a bit of Facebook. We obviously do a lot of email marketing, a little bit of Twitter, a bit of everything. And then, trying to sign up delegates using all these different channels. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that we do on top that was not listed there is really again coming back to my original point about partners, is we do promote events of our partners, and then when we host events, we reach out to the community and say, if you think that the content is valuable for your community, we're very happy to have you as a supporting organization or media or a community partner and help really engage your community. And we're always very happy also to understand then if some of the partners want to take it on as a possibility to host an offline event, a satellite event, or basically take our content and make it even bigger for them and meaningful for their community. Because at the end of the day, the way how we look into our conferences is we pack what we do 365 days throughout the year into 2 days and just, elevate it to basically create a bigger impact to have more people connected at the same time. But yeah, so with that is really partners. Partners is the key.
Yeah. I can add a few points, like you could get KOL to promote your events, identify the KOL that you think relevant, or could be the spokesperson for your event, and talk to them, partner with those KOL. They would be able to, get some their followers to attend your events. And second, we have a platform. We're building a platform that's we help you to drive attendance. So check our website. You can post event there. We have been working with a lot of brands, even magazines like Vogue, Bazaar. So they are all putting the events on our platform. And what we do is driving the members to attend the event. And I hope that will be useful for you.
Thank you. All right. I think it's not enough time to get every single grain of information out of you. You are obviously very experienced in what you're doing, and I think it was a joy having you guys here in this panel. So I would like to thank you, Karena, Anna, and Max, for joining me today at the Hive talk discussion about our future of events. Thank you very much for joining us. Before we leave, I would like you to know that you can still send us questions. If you have questions for those panelists, we're happy to share them with them, and we can get back to you on their answer, of course. And of course, if you would like to see them, We have introduced them in the beginning. You can visit their websites, and I think they're happy to engage with you there. Thank you very much. It was very insightful from you, and I hope you had some fun here as well. So thank you from the Hive for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, the
Thank you,
Hive.
guys.
Thank you. Have a good day.